So this review isn't going to be too terribly long. Today was more so lackluster in its delivery, but getting started off with the daily time frame, we can see that today ended up closing out as a TPD. All right, so this would be candle 1, this would be candle 2, this would be candle 3. If we look on the Dow, the close of candle 1 is lower than the open of candle 3, vice versa. On the Nasdaq, the open of candle 3 is lower than the close of candle 1, and on the S&P, the open of candle 3 is lower than the close of candle 1. So whenever we have a daily time frame TPD, right, we look for a weekly cycle sequential SMT, because remember, daily time frame candles are just weekly cycle quarters, right, encapsulated into one singular candle. So we have the previous days and the previous lows. We have that highlighted here, and the best thing to do would treat it as a re-stabilization day, right? So if we get a bullish cracking correlation at the lows, then we would expect higher prices. If we get a bearish cracking correlation at the highs, then we get, expect lower prices. So very straightforward. All right, but now moving into a 4-hour chart. All right, we can see our 4-hour gap ended up offering a bullish move in the morning, right? Just a small run up higher, but later in the day ended up coming back down, and now we're still trading within this gap. So considering how there is a large news event tomorrow, this gap could still work, but considering of how it's lingering around this gap for a good bit, that decreases the probabilities. So the important liquidity pools to focus on right now, specifically on the S&P and the Nasdaq, is this buy side liquidity pool right here on the Nasdaq, and this sell side liquidity pool right here. And then on the S&P, we have this buy side, and then we have this sell side liquidity pool. So, it's just an if then, right? If we get a bullish cracking correlation at this candle's low, we'd expect price to take out these highs highlighted here. If we get a bearish cracking correlation, right, we expect price to take out these lows right here. So once again, not really too much to review in terms of intraday. It was very lackluster and consolidative, and some days are going to be like that. It is what it is. But the most important thing is just taking that day for what it is and knowing what to expect next because of it. So are we on the same track? What about the hidden weekly? I don't care about the hidden weekly. You're going to a 1-hour chart. This doesn't really concern me at all. Why did you enter on the gap at the open specifically? We take the midpoint of this gap here on the Nasdaq. We can see it was right after 9:30, right at 9:30. Yep. Price shot lower, hitting the midpoint. The midpoint of the gap was the focus, not anything else besides that. Just to clarify, if then between previous day low, previous day's high, because of consolidated day, and also because it was a TPD. Yes, exactly. And now we can do some Q&A. Then we will head out. Do you think CPI will come out bullish or bearish? Well, we'll cross that road this Friday. We gotta let non-farm payroll cook up first. Our next tape reading will be tomorrow, which I'll put out an announcement because I didn't say it in Monday's stream. But our tape reading days will be tomorrow and Friday. So if then day, expect a weekly cycle. For any significant movement, trade in the direction of the Kraken correlation. Exactly. Why did you not enter straights when it tagged into the gap like previous weeks? What was your target? 0.5 of the gap. Did you see anything in specific that made you choose this? Yes. A trick that I have not shared yet. Which will come later on. If all three assets remain within the highs and lows of the previous day, we wait for news. Exactly. Would you expect it to be a bearish move given how the TPD formed inside the candle based on the core content before last 4-hour CISD? Yeah, but the thing is that it's majorly consolidative inside. Also, the Dow had a bullish change in state of delivery, so it's a little iffy. Well, I'll preface and say the Dow didn't have any change in state of delivery. When using a TPD to anticipate SMT, does it need to be the immediate next quarter, or can it also be the quarter after that? It needs to be, the direct quarter, which would be candle number 3. And when using a TPD, is there a gap on the time frame we should see the sequential SMT on? Is it valid to trust a sequential SMT one time frame below the anticipated time frame? In my opinion, it's best just to stay within the rules. But if you're trading the strongest asset in a particular direction, right, you don't even have to worry about the SMT being there. How to balance out the CSD on TPD between assets and have better view on the direction. Best case scenario is if you see a change in the state of delivery, on all of the assets in a particular direction. What about the monthly cycle Q1 SMT at the highs, using it as a draw on liquidity? So that, notice how I haven't said anything about that. Haven't talked about it at all. This is Well, I don't even think there is a monthly SMT. Unless we're talking about this right here. Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be dependent on, how we operate within the means of this current range here. As of now, we don't need to think 7 steps ahead and have a complete attachment to, okay, these highs are the draw on liquidity. We don't have any information down here suggesting why price should reasonably draw all the way back up here. Now, does that mean it can't? No. It just means that we need to wait for the market to really tell us that it wants to go higher by taking out this high here. In a few week, Mondays seem to be a high probability, regardless if news is present or not. The day before non-farm payroll seems to be low probability, regardless if a red news is present. Have you found this to be true? Yes, it tends to be the case. Do you wait for all assets to give the change in the state of delivery within the TPD? Yes. Keeping it simple, once price gives us the information, then we see what we need to do next. Exactly. Now, does that mean opportunity is extremely limited and there's absolutely nothing to do? No. Right. Take this Friday, for instance, or the previous Friday. All right. We saw what the market was doing and we were able to frame a bullish setup, 1 to 3. So even just coming into the morning session, right, that'll be more information that could change our mind about things. Will the Dow resync this week? Potentially. There might be some juice left at the highs before going lower. It is a possibility, but we'll just work within the current range that we have now. Once it closes, you can practically guess the higher low of the week using weekly halving theory and symmetrical unsymmetrical approach. Yes. Oh, we got a voice message. That was an amazing voice reveal. Yeah. For those that know about weekly halving, if price, the very reason why I'm doing the if then, or what plays a part and ties into it, is if price expands higher, taking out this high, this is likely to remain the low of the week. If price trades lower and expands lower, taking out this low, this is likely to remain the high of the week. Is FX more clean to you at the moment? Daily gap seems very bullish. Okay. There's also a bearish weekly cycle SMT right now. So it's stuck in the middle. Yeah, CPI tends to be a continuation move, but the only problem is that CPI is coming out on a Friday. So we'll be in for some, unique price action, to say the least. But at least this week we can show the higher time frame news model. Well, intraday news model for large scale news events. Another big news event happening on Wednesday, January 21st. We'll worry about that next year. Unless it was this January. NQ's high you marked out buy side. S&P has already taken out that high. Comparable to that one, it has since created a change in state of delivery high, failing to create a secondary cracking correlation. By that logic, we were looking for the Nasdaq to draw up to that high. Can it still reach up there? Manipulate it with a bearish TPD, still playing out? Potentially. Yep. The thing is with non-farm payroll. Non-farm payroll is one of those events that can completely wipe out any reasonable analysis that you have. So there's no point in trying to take 30 guesses at the market. In core content 3, you talked about confirming narrative cracking correlation with two-stage and quarter expansion. In essence, you were explaining how to get onside the reversal, how to get onside the continuation, right? Yes, exactly. But later on, you'll see that you don't even need a cracking correlation sometimes. That information was for the people that wanted to stay for a month and then leave. While it is very useful information, it doesn't occur that frequently. Looking for market maker models, is it best to look at the Dow? They try to find stages of consolidation? No, they can be any of the assets. Well, generally all of the assets will have a clear, distinguishable consolidation. Well, I take the Dow into account here since it is out of sync, or because within the day it was related. Within the day it was related. One thing is concerning because everyone thinks the market will drop. They might delay it. Delay the news event. Or delay the drop. The market tends to do things the popular crowd isn't aware of. Right? Most people get their analysis based off of some random dude on CNN that says the market is dropping. From here, it could either continue going lower, or it could go higher, or it could go sideways. Right? But they'll place all of their emotion based off what you said prior to that. With the market is dropping. Majority of people out here don't even look at the candlesticks. They don't see what price is doing themselves. They see some headline about something that happened 2 weeks ago or a week ago. I think that's what's that's what's happening right now. So does a dollar play any part in your overall analysis? No. Not at the moment. I get my analysis off of TikTok traders trading Asia session gold. That is the way. It's the method right there. Just saw CME is coming out with single stock futures. Yeah, saw that as well. Whatever happened to their prediction markets? I thought they were coming out with prediction markets as well. What broker do you use for your personal live account, Tradeovate or AMP? I've answered this question probably 30 times now at this point. But interactive brokers, it's pretty funny. But both of those and even more. I have different brokers for different functions. Since Top Step is falling off, what other good props are out there? I've heard a lot of people say good things about Lucid. Yeah, I don't know what. Didn't Top Step have a Super Bowl commercial this year? I thought I saw something about that. That's insane. But with that being said, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up here. Is everybody on track and on the same page? Perfect. So I'll speak with you all again. I'll answer this last one. Solday is not touching Bitcoin until it drops below 40K. Yep. And I'm not touching Bitcoin until it drops below 50K. But I'll speak with you all again tomorrow morning. Good luck and enjoy the rest of your day.